Morning and welcome to Transition Story. This is a very, very special episode for me because it's my 25th episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the 25th episode, Pamela. Thank you.
Yeah, so I wanted it to be special for myself and for you as well because there are very few women who have come on the show, and you being an author, something that I aspire to become, and a woman who has been a trailblazer. It's a real pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm glad I met the cut in some sense, and I'm glad to be here on the show talking to you as
Okay.
well.
So for our listeners and the audience, Lochan is an accomplished L&D professional. She has been in the industry for quite some time, has coached a lot of people on their career transition journeys. She herself has gone live multiple times on LinkedIn and doing podcast on career transitions. And very lately, Lochan has also accomplished herself as an author. She has
Yeah,
written a book, co-authored a book with a few other people that's called Career Heist, and we'll discuss more as we,
sure.
dwell into your journey. So, Loshan, any initial thoughts that you want to share?
No, but just thank you for having me here, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing, bringing in transition stories out there. I think this is one of the spaces which is the least talked about, and that's been something that um, I've also been trying to do, and through my organization as well, we've been trying to bring out different stories and different formats, different experiences, and it doesn't have to be a story of somebody, really far away. People talk about different celebrities and how they have transformed, and somehow they just don't seem achievable. But I'm glad you're bringing stories of literally next door people, right? Like people who could be your neighbors, who are your friends, who are your classmates. And I think that's what really makes a difference of what you're doing and makes that impactful. So thank you for once again for having me here.
Yeah. See, many people talk about transitions, talk about celebrity transitions, right?
Yeah.
Naval Ravikant becoming the person he became, or certain other entrepreneur, very lately, the Zepto founder being talked about, right? Kids transitioning from college, dropping out, and then building something big. But those are handful of stories, right? There are so many stories out there of people who are not noticed, but they're very happy, very accomplished, have really trailed a lot of hardships and been there. So my deepest endeavor was to give a platform to everybody who can come and speak about their story, feel special, and the world learns from them because those stories are much more relatable, as you just said.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's start the conversation. It's a Sunday morning. We are having this live, and I'm really liking the vibe. So Lochan, you have navigated multiple domains from sales to L&D and to entrepreneurship. What was the most pivotal moment that sparked your own transition from a corporate life to founding OfExperiences? That's your latest venture.
Um, So this was sometime in 2018, I think. I had already spent close to about 10 years in my career, a little more than that. And I had worked in different organizations. This was my third organization. I was liking the work that I was doing. But I think there was one point I was feeling very restless. I would look at everything and say, blah, like this is not fun. This is, yeah, okay, I've been there, done that. And I was getting that feeling a lot, like that been there, done that, been there, done that kind of a feeling. So the first thought that came to my mind is maybe this is about my organization. Maybe this is not about me. And you won't believe it. I actually started applying for roles outside of the company. There's nothing wrong with the organization, but I said, okay, maybe I'm not getting the vibe here, or I don't know what it was. Um, I applied for roles. I cleared a couple of interviews, but nothing excited me. Nothing. And everything that I looked at made me feel that, yeah, you know what, I'll be doing the same thing. It'll be again like 6 months later, I'll be like, okay, I'm done. What do I go? And is this what my career is going to look like? Like by now, I thought I would have accomplished something. I would have, you know, I don't know what in my head I was thinking. I should have been there. I should have landed somewhere or something like that. Is what my um, and that was the point where I said, okay, I don't know where this is headed, and this is not giving me any energy. This is literally draining me out. So this was not a one-day conversation. This was happening for almost
A period
eight to
of
ten
time.
months for a period of time. So come 2018 end, and I had the I spoke to my husband and told him, I said, I'm thinking of taking a break. He said, for what? I said, I don't know. I really don't know, but let's maybe I just need to clear my head. Maybe I'll do another MBA. Maybe I'll do something else and so on. And I took that break and I'm so glad. And my organization that time was also supportive of saying, okay, you want to take it like a sabbatical. I didn't even want to give them the promise that it's a sabbatical and I'll come back because I didn't know. So um, the only thing that happened was somebody advised me that why don't you get become a coach because you know you're already a L&D professional and that's like the natural next step. And I had no idea what coaching meant. I thought it was like I'll go and tell all the CEOs what they should be doing with their work and with their life and how they should build a culture and all of that. So I said, okay, why not? So I did the coaching training, coach training, and that made the world of a difference for me. I think for me that was that's when I started getting answers to all of these questions that I'd been asking myself for such a long time. And that 6 months really transformed how I started to look at things. I said, okay, I have the answers. It's not that someone I have to go out look for the answers. I have the answers. I just need to kind of clear my head and get that. That's so that's the point where I said, okay, but I'm not the only one. There are people who are in similar spaces because when I would talk to people, they would say, "Yeah, this happens. You know, this it's okay. Just put your head down and just keep working and keep moving forward, and doesn't matter." It's when I really thought that okay, maybe there needs to be more to this conversation. This is not, you know, this is kind of not enough. There has to be more to this, and that's when Off Experiences really was born. It take the shape that it took today. It isn't today. It was a very different, like when I initially visualized it, it was supposed to be like a platform. It was supposed to like be a marketplace of coaches connecting people. But I also realized that we're still a little away from people understanding the importance of coaching and kind of you need to give them exposure to it is where we kind started doing more one-on-one rather than using it as a marketplace and evolve. So that point is saying I'm stuck, I don't know what to do with my career, and not listening to everyone else who's telling me put your head down and go ahead was really the game changer for me. What made the difference?
See, this show has hosted a lot of coaches in the past, like
Hmm.
yourself. And there's a common theme that everybody said, and I so loved hearing it from you as well, that coaching transforms the coach first
Yeah.
before the coaches, right? And
Yeah.
every coach has some broken element within them that they seek to go and fix. And once they get exposed to coaching, there is so much of evoking of awareness within themselves that they get to first know themselves, and then that becomes a habit. You
Yeah.
start evoking awareness for others. Do you feel the same?
So you cannot coach if you are not doing this yourself. Okay. And that's where a lot of coaches, to be honest, make the mistake. So they've gone through the coaching and they're like, okay, now I have arrived. Like the thought process I had before I got it, right? Like I'm now going to tell you what you should be doing, right? But coaching is not that. And I look at, you said broken element, and I want to kind of rephrase that because it's somehow in India we are still not comfortable with those words. It almost feels like there is something wrong with me
Negative connotation,
to
right?
it. So I like to usually give an analogy of saying that imagine you have a treasure chest with you, okay, and the treasure chest is full of cobwebs, okay, and there are maybe like these couple of spiders and God knows what is hanging out there. The coach's job is to A, tell you, hey, do you know there is a treasure chest? And to give you actually something to clean the treasure chest. It could be a cloth, it could be a feather duster, it could be something. And you, when you do that cleaning, is when you realize, oh my God, there was such a big treasure chest. Maybe earlier you could only see the top of it. And then when you start dusting, you realize it's much bigger. And when you open it, you realize there's so much of treasure inside it. That's the analogy I'd like to. So the job of the coach is to really help you dust out the cobwebs so that you are able to tap into your potential. You are able to um, recognize the patterns that you're working with, which are not serving you anymore. And that's the pattern that you need to break.
That's a
So
beautiful way of putting it across.
so I always look at it like that's my analogy for coaching. Anybody asks what's coaching, I said like think of it like that. And you are the treasure chest. You are the person who has all the answers, all the possibilities, all the potential in you. A coach doesn't do anything other than help you kind of where to start dusting. So from that lens,
It's like uncovering the treasure that is
a
hidden.
lot of aspects. Yeah.
All right, that's a nice segue into the next question. As an individual who has tackled so many challenges, right? You have done adventurous stuff like scuba diving, climbing mountains. How has some of that grit, like it takes a lot of grit and a lot of resilience to be able to do those adventure stuff. How has that grit helped you navigate your own ups and downs in your professional journey?
So that's an Pamela, I've never given that question a thought, and I honestly never thought that there is a linkage between the two. Because to me, what I was doing as an adventure enthusiast was all about experimenting. But now, when I look at it, um, my first piece always has been, if you don't try, how will you know? Right. So it's a classical thing of saying, a lot of people say, no, I don't want to do it, I don't like it. I'm like, how do you like? Sometimes when mothers say no with food that we don't like to eat, and they'll say, no, if you don't try, how will you know? I think that has been my philosophy all throughout life. If I don't try, how will I know if I like it or I don't like it? Which always pushed me to these adventure elements. um, I'll specifically give Kilimanjaro's example, which I did like about 4 5 years ago. um, it really is about putting one foot in front of the other. And there are so many times that there are like 2 3 things that you do need to do as an individual. And maybe I don't know about grit, because there are a lot of days when I don't have that grit. Even when you're climbing, there'll be a lot of times when you'll be asking yourself, you know who asked me to sign up for this, and what was that moment? Can I go back and give myself a tight slap and say, hey, why did you do this? But your why is very important. Why am I doing this? What is it that I want out of this experience, right? And that why helps you move forward through difficulties. The why helps you move forward through, uh, you know, crazy winds coming your way. The why helps you move forward through snow, through like minus 30 degrees and like 60 kmph winds like hitting you. So it's the why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? And the second thing is also, um, I'm a little spiritual a person, and therefore I also say that the trust the if I say divine, people will start getting into it, but trust the energies around you. Trust in some way the world around you. There is going to be something that will push you. There is going to be something that will give you that. So when in doubt, trust the process. When in doubt, like I don't know what to do, just trust the process. Just put your head down and like take the next step and just focus on taking the next step. Before you realize, you'll get there. I think that's something I have like been applying to different things. And specifically my entrepreneurial journey has been, that's the only principle I've applied. That, you know, I'm trusting the process. I'm just putting my head down, I'm trusting the process. I'm putting my head down, I'm trusting the process. So that's where probably I'll draw a parallel between the two.
You seem to be giving us takeaways from each segment of the discussion. The first
You can
segment,
like
first segment, we did take away that our life is a treasure chest, and a coach can really help us uncover that treasure chest hidden somewhere. And the second one is lovelier. It says trust the process, and the balance is so good because when we get into the process of doing something, keep doing, keep your head down. You know, doing gets you somewhere.
Yeah,
It's not where you want it to be, but it'll get you some
it'll get you
distance,
somewhere.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lovely piece of, I would say, recommendation, and it's up to people to contextualize it and
Of
take it,
course. Of
with
course.
their
Absolutely.
circumstances. But on a lighter note, do these adventure sports kind of give you that feeling? Oh yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, yeah, I work with a bucket list. So I had a bucket list of things I want to do before I turn 40. I'm going to be 40 this year. There were a few things that I did tick off, and I said, okay, I am here. But last year, my husband and I both said, okay, we are going to now say things that we do before we turn 50. So it does give you a sense of I have achieved something. I've achieved something different. I've challenged myself and achieved something. I think that's a very different high, and that's the high that I enjoy, that of uh, I want to do, I want to try new things, and I want to do them, and I want to be good at doing them. So that's really what drives me, what my fundamental motivation or drivers really are.
Yeah. See, that high also fuels your professional life, right? We
Yeah,
we take breaks, we do things which we like. It kind of
yeah,
pumps our energy up. It also gives us clarity. At least for
yeah,
me, when I try to tick something in my bucket list, I come back with so much clarity.
absolutely. And I'll also add one thing, that and this is something when I talk about from my coaching experience and lens, is that a lot of people associate their identity with their title. Okay, so
Oh, very
if
much.
you are a chief business officer, then that's all that I am. But when I go out and do all of these different things, I'm all of these things. I'm also a scuba diver. I'm also, a trekker. I'm also a runner. I'm also this. I'm also a dancer. There are so many other things to you. And I think that when you start to do that, the fear and insecurity that comes with only one identity, and what if it gets taken away and you don't have anything to anchor yourself to, that becomes the challenge. So when I do coaching conversations, a lot of mid-career professionals come in, especially during these really tumultuous times when um, layoffs are happening, people are becoming redundant, all of that is happening. Suddenly people are like, I don't know who I am if I'm not this. And it's so important to know that you're so much more. You're probably, you're a great friend, you are a great listener, you are the person that the neighbors always lean on for, like a potluck or whatever it may be. There are so many different aspects to you, identity to you. And I think that's what I have always said, that there is more to my life than my title, there is more to my life than my profession. This may not, and till the time I don't do that, I don't enjoy this.
Yeah.
um, because I bring that energy back, and there is not much pressure on this. It's okay if not, there's something else.
Yeah.
you know I am not, um, I'm not making myself so vulnerable that if it breaks, then it's breaking me completely.
Completely as a person. I
So
had a funny situation. I was in a flight, okay, coming back from work, from Bombay. I don't recollect exactly what was the work assignment. There was a gentleman sitting right next to me, and he asked me, "What do you do?" Okay, so I said, "I am so and so in company XYZ." He said, "No, I asked, what do you do?" So, and I repeated my answer twice. And then he said, "You probably didn't get my question. So I'm just trying to ask, who are you? Who is Pamela? And it was so thought provoking for me.
yeah.
I kind of made up an answer, I also like doing this. And then he said, maybe it's a very senior guy, like probably a guy in his 70s, has seen the world. And he was artist. Okay.
Hmm.
And so he said, so I said, if I ask the same question to you, now that I've given you a broken answer, how will you revert back? And he said, I love art in any form. As a profession, I do design homes,
Hmm.
but at heart, I'm an artist and I have a creative lens to anything that I look at. It was such a beautiful way of describing who he was
Yeah,
as a person.
yeah,
And even though if his job as a designer goes away,
yeah,
he still stays the artist, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it was a lovely story in my own life where I realized, okay, yes, we have to be so much more than work. And that was the incident which kind of triggered my journey into running, exploring physical fitness as other dimensions of my life.
Yeah. And there is you know, there is energy that you draw from that. Okay. So I so my husband is into running and he loves it. He enjoys, he has his own group, they have their own jokes, and that's a space where he is not his title, he's not
Correct.
a husband, he's not a son, he is him, and he's doing something that he really like enjoys and does. And I think that energy you bring back into other spaces. So I have always been very wary of putting all my eggs in one basket, and that's, I think, been general philosophy in life also for me. I didn't realize it, but at a very deep level also, I you know, I have friends for different needs. And I'm also a huge movie fan. So I love Shah Rukh Khan, and um I absolutely love the, you know, the movie of Dear Zindagi, when he tells Alia Bhatt, he tells her that you know, if you're expecting one person to fulfill all your needs, you're gonna, you know, end up in a disaster. So, you know, so have different people to cater to different aspects of your life. And similarly, I'll say have different aspects to your life. Forget about people, have different aspects to your life. So there is more to you than, you know, the job that you do. Because you know, and because in today's world that's not going to stay, right? And that's not going to be it's not going to stay the same way, it's not going to stay the same shape, and so on.
Yeah. Now, having been a coach for so long, I'm sure you would have coached so many people, with 300, 200, 400 plus hours of coaching that you have. What has been your observation about the most common barrier that prevents people from achieving their true potential?
um, the first and foremost is people are very scared to dream. They're very scared to have an aspiration. So they, I always, when I tell them, okay, so if and of course there are different exercises that you do and so on, but like if or rather, if there, if you had everything, what is the one thing that you'll do? It takes them a lot of time to answer that question. And even when they are setting their goal, they'll always limit themselves. They'll always say, you know, I want to be the like a goal, let's say I want to be the VP of whatever, like senior VP in tech and so on. But you know, that will not happen that easily. They'll immediately, like, you know, cut that statement with saying but. And yes, you may say that, okay, if I'm a joining as a management trainee today and I'm saying I'll become VP in 2 years, may not happen. May not happen in the same organization, may happen somewhere else. And if
Correct.
that's your aspiration, maybe you need to look at that somewhere else. So it's important to help them break out of where they are, and they will put those limits around themselves a lot of times. So as a coach, I think the first thing that I help them do is just say there are no boundaries, now let's think. There are no boundaries, now let's think. And the minute you allow them to think and say, okay, what else could can you do? If I want to be a VP to, like, in 2 years, what are the other spaces? And suddenly the doors open for them. They're like, oh, I could maybe do this and I could do that, and I could, you know, maybe go join another company, or I could take up this course, or I could take up that project, and it just opens. So the element is everybody works with you know, they put their dream or their wish or their ambition out there with very tight guardrails and very clear, you know, tight definition and so on. The second I always say is that people don't have a definition of their version of success. So they feel success is, and I use this language a lot of times. I sometimes say I feel I haven't arrived. I was talking to a coach of mine, and he explored. He said, "What does that mean? What does that mean to you?" And it's absolutely okay. That's a non-judgment space. It's absolutely okay if you say, you know what, I want to be able to walk into a BMW store and just buy it. That's fine. Maybe that's your definition of success, and that's okay. But then don't come and say that money doesn't matter to me. Then money matters to you, right? So it's important that we have our own version of success. So these are two areas that I see consistently across genders, across geographies, across levels, industries. Typically, it, anybody in that 12-15 year experience above is in this space. They don't have a definition of their success, and they don't know how to dream big.
Yeah, and I'll draw some parallels with my consulting experiences here. Okay, so when I used to be a consultant and I used to go to customers, this is my early technology consulting days. We were taught that you go and ask the customer what good looks like. Let them
Hmm.
define what good looks like, and forget the product that you are selling. If you can help your customer define that end goal where they want to arrive with respect to their digital transformation or their systems or their processes, let them help you, you help them see that. So this is exactly that, right? You are kind of thinking limitlessly. What's the art of possible?
Yeah,
And in your own words, being able to put a definition to it on what good looks like, right?
exactly,
When
exactly.
these two things happen,
Yeah,
any aspect of life, right? Be it
yeah,
career, be it a project, uh, there is a lot of clarity,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
you seem to work without boundaries, without limitations. You don't kind of put yourself in a box, thinking, okay, this is the only thing that I can do right now.
Yeah, yeah. And uh, absolutely. I think you just drew a brilliant parallel to this. It is very easy for me to do it for a product, a process, a team, a system. It's very difficult for me to do it for myself because I don't even know that I have these limiting beliefs. And that's where the challenge comes. I don't even know that I'm limiting myself. I don't even know that I'm uh, in the name of being practical, I am actually limiting what I can do. Say, of course, this is not practical. Of course, this is not practical. I'm a very practical person. And with that, I'm like saying, and as a result, I can't do this and I can't do that and so on. So I think you know, uh, that's the, that's the part. So the minute you start thinking big and limitlessly, I think you arrive. Be it process or it's yourself. Yourself takes a little more time.
Now, in this whole journey of believing in yourself, defining what good looks like, I also hear you talking about sustainable behaviors, right? Certain sustainable behaviors are important for key impact, right? Whether it is in business, it's in professional life. What is that one practical technique individuals can practice or take away from this conversation if they are rewriting their career journey?
Um, so one of the things that I ask people is, when was the last time you wrote a goal statement for yourself? Uh, not organizational KRAs, for yourself,
Which
right?
everybody writes, right?
Yeah, everyone writes.
Everyone.
There, and there's enough and happening of, we will achieve 10% extra, 50% extra. But in real life, for yourself, when was the last time you wrote a goal that this is what I want to
Correct.
achieve? Um, do that every 5 years. Every 5 years, ask yourself, if my is my goal changed? Has my goalpost changed? The second piece that I tell them is, every year at the end of the year, uh, can I actually write down my skills and not um, or rather I would extend a little more, saying a little more strengths, right? So because the minute I say skill, I should it gets into the technical place, but strengths, for example, maybe I am great at influencing people, right? So people in my team reach out to me because they call me in for conflict situation with a client because I'm usually calm and managing. That's a great strength, right? So do I put that down? So start with a master list of strengths, and just, if you don't want to do anything about it, also doesn't matter, at the end of each year, see if that list is getting added. And the more you start to do that, the more you realize that these strengths, some of these strengths are agnostic to certain roles, certain industries, certain spaces. and you automatically will start viewing yourself and your career differently, rather than saying I am a, you know, I'm a front end developer and that's where I am, whatever, for the last so much time, or I'm a talent acquisition person. You don't give yourself a title, you give yourself all of these strengths, because this, the strength that you have, apart from, of course, the functional knowledge, expertise that you're bringing in, uh, is what will help you start thinking of your career differently and start opening up conversations and doors for you. So, as a very simple exercise to do, this is an exercise that I ask them to do, the first exercise. So, let's list down your strengths. And, you know, if you think it was silly, but, you know, I'm really good at making Excel sheets, great. Like, even put that down as strengths. And then let's build on that. And that's one behavior that I genuinely ask, like, typically the mid professionals to do, and be more aware of it as they're going forward, saying, okay, at the end of this year, this is a strength I added, this is a strength I demonstrated, or I uncovered about myself I didn't know.
Correct.
And that makes a lot of difference to you and how you view your career.
I think transferable skills is a very important aspect of
Yeah.
today's career transition journeys, because a person who would be doing marketing may be moving to a software development role, and they would have a huge resilience as a key skill, right? They're very
Yeah,
resilient. That is a transferable skill. They may not be carrying everything that they do in marketing to
absolutely.
another job, right?
Yeah.
That has been a great advice from you. Now, many of our listeners, they would be looking forward to career pivots, right? Or they have a fear starting with career change, right? As a career coach, what is the counterintuitive advice you would give them that most career coaches don't?
um so anyone who speaks to me on career pivots, and usually uh, when they talk to me from a lens of saying, you know, I want to transition out from this space and do something different, and do something else, uh, I ask them don't. I tell them don't do it. And the reason for that is, I tell them don't do it till you're not clear on why you're moving out from where you're moving, and why you're moving to where you're moving. And till you are not clear about that, please don't do it. So it's not the process is easy, right? So if someone's choosing to make that, uh, a lot of people think about from a lens of why am I moving to a new place, but they don't think of from a lens of why am I moving out of this place, right? And what will actually help me stay back in this place. The why is that important is, sometimes we may be drawn by a shiny object, right? Like a new something, right? A new space, new industry, or a colleague of mine has moved there and is doing very well, and I feel that's going to be the opportunity. But my circumstances are different. My reality is different. My challenges are different. So it's important that I also say, okay, what's good where I am, and what's not so good where I am. And therefore, the is this why the not so good part about really strong enough for me to make this shift? Right? And the not so good could be aspect like I'm not learning, I'm not growing, I am I'm not being challenged. It could be all of those. It could be that I am in a space or role that can get redundant very soon. It could be any of those. But if the good part or why am I here is core to what you who you are and supports the life stage that you're at, you may want to hold on to the pivot right now and say, I'm going to build my capability, my everything to making that change. But let's hold on to it right now. So the aspect to understand is that every change is not necessarily the most comfortable for your family also. So especially when people choose to move from corporate to an entrepreneurship, my question is, what does your family think about this? Have you had these conversations with them? Because they need to be on board with everything. You may not be, there may be a lifestyle shift, there may be your unavailability. Earlier you were always available on a weekend, now you're not available on a weekend, right? But you're available on weekdays, right? So there can be so many different things that can happen, and therefore your family also needs to be involved. So the one advice that I always come back to giving is saying, before you make the career pivot, please ask why you're moving out from where you are.
The reason, the why is very important.
The why is extremely important. And the why, not of why am I moving there, but why am I coming out of this space?
Yeah, what you are leaving, where you are going to,
Yeah.
both are important in
What your
terms of
both are absolutely
change.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings us to a good conclusion where we cannot let you go without discussing your book, Career Heist. Which,
Sure.
we'd like to take away something, from the book and be tempted to read it. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Um, so Career Heist is it's co-authored by me and two other people, Gaurav Gandhi and Apur Bamba. And interestingly, all three of us come with very different experiences. So Gaurav has spent all his career in one organization. Apurv has never worked in the corporate. He's always been a serial entrepreneur. And I'm someone who's kind of seen both worlds. So when we were bringing in the perspectives, we realized our thought processes, our fundamentals were very similar, but also that sometimes the approaches were a little different. And we therefore had to obviously kind of align and bring that in together as well. Um, so Career Heist is has come out therefore as a toolkit, a practical guide to anybody who's in that mid career space, because we bring in all three lenses. We don't bring it from only a corporate lens or an entrepreneur lens and so on. So we bring it from all three spaces, all three lenses. And also, we were very clear we didn't want Gyan. I'm not a big non-fiction self-help reader. So and one of the reasons for that is I feel like, there's just too much gyan, there's too much of you should do this, you should do this. So we said that firstly we'll try and reduce the shoulds in the book, and we'll try and keep it as simple, easy to do, and practical tips that you can do. So we have spoken about, should you follow your passion? We have spoken about, I'm too old to change my career. What should I do? We have spoken about um, as simple a thing as if you want to start somewhere fresh, even as a fresher, how do you kind of pick up like, pieces, like how do you look at internships? How do you write a DM to like get those conversations going? And what's a good way, not a good way to write those? So I think it acts as a practical guide, as a handbook. There are enough exercises in it to do that if anybody who is asking themselves or feeling stuck and saying, okay, what next for me? This is a book for them. And you will find an answer in one of the pages for sure. It may not be in all the chapters, but you will find your answer.
Very
So,
nice.
yeah,
So there are a lot of practical tips that I hear,
absolutely.
and it is relatable because these are things you can do on the go. It's not blatant advice, which many books kind of throw at us.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of learning. And before I let you go, Lochan, one last question: why do you write the book? What kind of led you into giving back in such a big way? Because many people look at writing a book as a claim to fame, but a lot of authors that I've spoken to, they think that this was my way of giving back. So what was your why of writing the book?
So I will lie if I say that I didn't look at it as as a claim, as a path to claim to fame. But at no point did I disillusion myself of saying, okay, I'm going to be I'm going to be the next um, John Grisham or whatever, like I knew, not I knew, but um, as so I'm just taking a step back to say that because there are multiple thoughts that's just coming in my head right now. One is I never saw myself as a writer. I am not a writer. I don't think I write very well. There are a lot of people who really write well. I'm not that person. I feel I'm more comfortable speaking than I'm comfortable writing. Um, but when this opportunity came my way, and because it was also collective piece that we had to do, it was easier piece to bite into, easier piece for me to like look at and say, okay, this is my way of putting some of these structures out there. Like I do this with my coaches, can I actually present it in the form of a story and more people can read it? At the same time, it was also my way of getting more perspectives and saying, am I thinking correctly, is this the right way, or are there more things and more perspectives to put this together? I think that was the only thing. When we It took us 2 years to kind of get this book out, and it took us a year to write. And one of the reasons it took us a year to write, despite we were writing like very limited spaces chapters, um, was that we had to do a lot of research. We had to kind of study, understand, and yet write in a manner that we would like to read. So I think the book was more for me, in some sense. Like, in fact, just yesterday, I actually picked it up, and I know which chapter. So I went to that chapter. There's an exercise, and I was actually answering the questions because I'm in some dilemma with respect to some aspect of work, right? So I looked at it like that, and I thought it's a way to just put some of my random structures and thoughts together in a structured manner like a book, and that's
You
really
know,
it.
what I gather from what you just said is, first of all, thank you for being so authentic, because it's very rare for people to accept. Yeah, when you write a book, you want people to know you, which
Yeah,
is
yeah. So it's not like we printed like 10 copies and, or 3 copies, and each of us kept 1 copy. I want people to know it. I want people to read it. I
correct.
obviously want to be the bestseller in this category. I want my book to reach like enough number of places. I want people to see me at an airport and say, hey, you are that person, and I just picked up your book. Uh, but I, I always was clear that it's the quality of what I write. And if that book makes a difference to someone's life, uh, that's what is going to make a difference. I rather have people pick up the book and come back and say, I tried this one thing and it really made a difference to me, than 100 people coming and saying, hey, we bought your book, but whatever, it was just like one of the many books. I think that part makes a difference for sure.
Thank you for being so authentic. Thank you for sharing such great thoughts, Lochan. It was lovely talking to you. And I would really, really look forward to greater heights that you
Thank
climb,
you.
and new stories that we can share, when we host you back on the show, maybe on the 50th or the 100th episode.
Absolutely, and all the best as you do this. I just wanted to check. I think there's a question that's come in the chat. Would you want to pick that up, or would you want me to
Yeah,
respond
yeah.
that
Let me
separately?
just. Yeah, sure, sure, sure. And thanks for reminding me. Okay, sometimes because used to doing this offline, I completely missed the fact that there are so many questions. Um, so Karan asks, has your why in general stayed consistent over time, or has that changed every 5 or 10 years? And if it has changed, then how have you evaluated the resonance of this new why?
Um, the why changes. Okay, the why changes with general change in life and life stage and circumstance. I don't want to call wisdom. There is nothing called wisdom. I mean, it'll be too presumptuous of me to say wisdom. Um, when you are in your early 20s, your why is very different. When your life state changes, when you have start a family, your life is like why is different. When you are at a caregiving responsibility, be it a child or a parent, um, your why is different. And I think it's important that we accept that. In fact, a lot of my clients struggle that their why has changed. They're like, but it shouldn't have changed. I said, it's not set in stone. It's okay. You were chasing money at one point. Now that's no longer a concern because you have enough. You have enough. You've taken care of whatever. You've taken care of your parents. You've taken care of your family. You provided for them, etc., etc. So the why should change, and which is why I was saying that, do you have a goal for yourself, and ask yourself this question of saying, what is it that I want, out of my career in the next 5 years? What is it that I want out of my career in the next 5 years? And you will realize that the answer changes every 5 to 10 years. I mean, I wouldn't even go to 10 years. Now, every 5 years, the answer changes. It can be from I really want challenging work to absolutely like I want structured routine work, which I do enjoy, which gives me stability to spend time with my family, or which gives me like whatever time. So the vibe will change. Mine for sure has changed. Uh, and having coached so many people over the years, it changes. And the disconnect happens when you're not accepting that your why has changed.
Great answer, and thank you, Karan, for the question. And that also brings me to this thought before we close. Permanence is an illusion, right? When we think that, okay, I got job A, I have B degree, and this is life.
Yeah,
It's going to end. And this is a permanent thing. The moment that illusion breaks, and in today's day and age, with redundancy, with people opting to follow their passion or doing a lot of different things, uh, this permanence is going to get shaken at multiple
yeah,
points. The faster you accept that there is nothing called permanent in your professional
yeah,
or personal life, it's bound to change. And it's up to you to be mindful to go back and check on your why
yeah,
periodically, see
yeah.
how it aligns. You bring out your best self, and you try to work towards it. So great answers, great question. And I don't see any other question
Mm.
on the chat. I really, really loved your entire session. It was more of a conversation which I enjoyed, as well as I think you brought out things which are so, so vital in people's career when they are looking at transitions in particular. So thank you so much, Lochan, and I look forward to hosting you maybe on my 50th
Oh,
or
I would
100th
love
episode.
that.
You'll be my milestone guest. Anyways.
Thank you so much. And I would like to be there on the 200th episode. And I'm
Wow, big
wishing
aspiration.
you that you get there. And, it's a lot of good work that you're doing. Um, it's interesting that you've picked up the space because, like I said, people don't talk about transitions as often. I think it's great that you're talking about it. Um, amazing stuff. So I'm really glad that we could have this conversation. And thank you, everyone who joined in, who's watching this live on whatever channels that you are. And of course, if you have any questions or if you have any inputs, I'm saying this on behalf of Pamela, if you have any other
Yes.
questions or themes that you want to hear more from her on, please, reach out to her, and she'll get more such guests accordingly, and have those conversations. That's how she will reach her 500th episode as well.
Thank you so much for being such a kind guest, and love the partnership, and wish you all the best too, Lochan.
Thank you so much and all the best. Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.